Good morning. I think everyone can hear me. Nice to virtually see you all, even though I can't actually see you all. That would be too many squares up for Zoom's brain. But I have been really looking forward to the chance to spend a little bit of time with you, albeit in a very different way. And I wanted to just begin by acknowledging the strange times we're in. My goodness, who would have guessed? I will say that I think we as a community have done exceptionally well in these unprecedented times. It's becoming a cliche to say we're in unprecedented times, but we are. And I have felt so consistently throughout this crisis that we as a community have really been at our best. And I have seen that from our students. I have seen that from our faculty and our staff. I've seen it from our board, members of the community, donors. And so today, as we spend a little bit of time together, I ask you to remember that our strengths as a community really have been in vivid relief right now. And I hope that they continue to be. I want you to continue to cultivate as much grace and patience with these circumstances and with us in administration as we navigate our way through as you possibly can. Recognizing that we are all going through a process of reacting to these events that is an emotional toll and a really profoundly shifting and refocusing our lives as human beings on Earth at this moment. And so I want to recognize that this is really not easy. And all of us, truly all of us, everyone I've spoken with, has had their moments of a really intense sense of mourning, a really intense sense of, at times, anger and frustration. And also those moments of joy when we feel incredible pride in our community, when we feel like we are really in this together. But I want to acknowledge that it isn't all happy talk right now, nor should it be. There's so much difficulty happening in our country, in the world, and we need to stay real about that. We need to keep ourselves grounded in the truth of what's happening. And I think in these times, truth is as powerful as it ever has been, recognizing that we come at truths differently. But I promise you that I will continue to level with you as my community to the greatest extent that I possibly can based on all of the information I've got at hand, and that you will have our continued compassion for the reality of how this is hitting all of you. I am, as I said, deeply grateful for everybody in this community right now. And I'm so glad that we have some time together this morning. I want to just pause for a moment to ask Kelsey Moulton to walk us through the process for being together this morning, and turn it over to Kelsey so she can give us the rundown on that.
Thank you, Lori. I'll start my presentation now. Again, my name is Kelsey Moulton. I work in the President's Office. And we're just going to go through a quick overview of the different features in today's webinar and how to use them. So first, I just want to start off by showing this is what your screen should be looking like. You'll see there's 3 different buttons at the bottom, and we'll talk about what each of those does. So today there will be 2 different ways of asking a question. You'll have an opportunity to ask a live question if you're able with audio, audio only, no video. And then there's also an opportunity to type in your questions. So let's just look at these features first for a moment. So the first one is the chat feature, and that will mainly be used by panelists to communicate to attendees. As I said, there will be an opportunity to ask questions live. So we'll use that chat to just let you know when you're on deck to ask your question. And I just want to show you what it looks like when you do receive a chat. I see a lot of you have already used the chat already, so I know some of you are familiar with it, but when you receive a chat, it'll turn orange and you'll see a little number there. And then if you click on that, it'll open up a panel on the right, so you'll be able to see the chat fully and then respond in this box down here. So that is the chat feature. The next one is raise hand, and that one is for the live questions. So when you click raise your hand, it will alert us that you have a question. On your screen, it'll look like this. It'll turn the little hand green and it'll say lower hand instead. And we'll ask that you keep your hand raised until you have asked your question. And what we'll do when we call on you, again, we'll chat you just to let you know that you'll be up next. And then when we do call on you, this little box will pop up on your screen. So you want to hit unmute now, and you'll see down in the left-hand corner of your screen, there's a little microphone. You shouldn't see that now. It should only say audio settings. But once we've called on you, that little microphone will pop up. And the way that you'll know that you're unmuted is that the little line will disappear. And then you'll know you can ask your question. Once you've asked your question, you can hit lower hand so that we know everything is done. Once you're done asking a question, we also will mute you and this little box will pop up. So the third way of asking your question is to type it in if you're not able to actually ask it live. So you can click on the Q&A button here. It'll pop up this window and you can type your question in and then send it along, and we'll be monitoring those throughout. So again, just as a summary, for anyone who's just joining us, we have two ways to ask a question, either live by raising your hand or typing it into the Q&A feature. And the chat will be utilized by panelists to communicate to attendees. And we do ask that if you have a question that you're writing in, to please use the Q&A box as opposed to the chat. And then just know, for any questions that we don't get to during the hour together, know that we've received them, we've seen them, and it'll help to inform any communications that we have in the coming days. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Lori.
Thanks a lot, Kelsey. So I do want to bring to folks' attention, although I am not at this moment a very good role model for this particular feature of Zoom, some of you have been experimenting with very fun and cool backgrounds on Zoom. And we've put an article up on the Champlain View site about how to change your background. And it includes some Champlain College images. So if you are feeling lonely for campus, I want to make sure that you know that you have the option to use the View's play-by-play to figure out how to create cool backgrounds for yourself. I want to say thanks to Steph Kloss and Kaylee Sullivan, who worked on that for us. Since we are doing quite a few video meetings these days, having the chance to personalize our backgrounds is a small way that we can maybe hang on to a little semblance of normalcy, maybe. In the spirit of what I shared earlier about my gratitude for the way this community has shown up, I wanted to begin today with some examples that have come my way and give a chance for those who've been involved to share their experiences. So we're going to start with a virtual surprise birthday party that the marketing team held for Alice Easter. Happy birthday, Alice. And there were lots of festive backgrounds involved. So can we see what that looked like, Kelsey? Very cool. Oh, and you can see Steph Kloss. So there's our good role model. So Stephanie's got her Champlain background and everybody else is full on birthday background. Love it. Leave it to the marketing team. Thanks, Megan, for sharing that one with us. That's really fun. Let's welcome a few other colleagues who shared examples of what's going right now. Roland, I think you had an example to share.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. So we also had a two birthdays that happened, and Advancement takes birthdays pretty seriously. We have a big birthday banner that we hang across their cubicle at Lakeside. and there's usually food involved. So Naraya, who has the 2 team members, so Regina Farrell and Veronica Lewis, both were celebrating birthdays. So at Friday at 3 p.m., we had a Zoom meeting. It included me wearing my very festive party hat filled with balloons. And I also made each of them an individual molten lava cake with a candle that they were able to virtually blow out as they made their wish. So it was a good way to end our week.
That's fabulous. Thanks, Roland. Paula, we wanted to hear from you about some extraordinary faculty contributions. Are you with us this morning, Paula? There she is. You see her name. Looks like we might have to unmute Paula.
Okay, am I unmuted?
You are, we can hear you.
All right, hi everybody. I was saying there have been so many extraordinary contributions. I'm really proud of being part of this institution and the work that the faculty and others have done to pivot in a week or two. Incredible work. But I want to recognize one faculty in particular, and that's Jonathan Ferguson. Jonathan has worked tirelessly with a can-do attitude to pivot quickly to assure that all the game students had the technology they needed to transition to remote learning. So this included many things, but among them identifying students who didn't have computers, making sure that the computers that were available on campus were ready to be used for the demanding type of work that game design and all the game programmings need. Then distributing these computers to students by any means necessary, and that included carrying the machines to their cars, and in some cases mailing the machines to the students. So Jonathan made a real and positive difference in the lives of our students during these unprecedented and challenging conditions. So we all are your colleagues, Jonathan, your students, all of us are so grateful to you and so proud of you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paula. Nicely said, and I second that. Laurel, you had a story to share about Barbara Colombo. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I just wanted to share that the faculty are doing such creative pivots, that was a good word, Paula, in their classes and doing some very relevant, timely things. And Barbara Colombo right now is teaching health psychology, and her students changed their capstone project, their final project in that class, to being a weekly challenge for at-home well-being and managing stress. And they sent the invitation out to our seniors to participate, and within 24 hours, 80 of our seniors had signed up to take the weekly challenge the rest of the semester. So I just wanted to acknowledge what a creative and impactful idea that was. Thanks, Barbara.
Most definitely. And I know that many of you who are teaching remotely are keenly aware of the stress that many of our students are feeling. I know you yourselves have been carrying your own share of that. And I just want to say that many times, Catherine Morgan and I, Deans and I, the cabinet and I have been just overwhelmed, honestly, by our appreciation for the ways in which you all have shown up for students. We know this is a student-focused and teaching-focused place, and that's always a point of pride. But boy, has it shown up for us big time in the past couple of weeks. And so special thanks to all of you who on the faculty have just really, honestly, knocked it out of the park in terms of student support. And on that note, I want to also recognize our colleagues in Dublin and Montreal who had some pretty tough conversations with the groups that were studying there as we were preparing to close the campuses and bring our students back to the US. And so I believe Geneviève is with us. Hi, Geneviève. Do you want to share another good news story from Montreal?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes. So in Montreal and Dublin, we had a pretty emotional time having to repatriate everybody back to the United States. And I really want to start by thanking everybody who helped us. It's always incredible for me to see how when things are tough, so many people come out of their way to help us. There are just too many people to mention, but I was once again amazed by the support that everybody gave us. So one of our issues, apart from the technical difficulties with Dublin and Montreal, is that so many of our core courses are location-based. So for example, food writing class is taking our students out in the streets, on markets, in Chinatown, on Saint Laurent Boulevard, and then they taste all this multicultural food, and then they have to write about it. In addition, the teacher had gone to see her daughter in England, so she came back and she went straight into quarantine, and we were a bit worried, so we had a good talk with her. And following, you're going to see what she came up with, and we're really amazed by her spirit and all the effort she made. Stay safe, everybody.
Thanks, Geneviève. Yeah, this image is really unfair to show between breakfast and lunch, but this is the gorgeous presentation that our faculty member put on. That's really gorgeous. Amazing. Talk about being able to, the quarantine kitchen. I love it. That's brilliant.
Bye-bye, stay safe.
Thank you, you too. So we're gonna keep track of these bright spot stories. We are not gonna underestimate how critical just taking a minute to spend time with this kind of determination and positivity, how important that can be for all of us individually and as a community. And so in that spirit, I want to let you know that we are going to be launching a recognition and celebrating each other initiative called Champlain Heroes. And we'll tell you more about it in the coming days. But as you are interacting with colleagues, as you are monitoring the ways that you stay connected with your Champlain community, I really want to encourage you to keep an eye and an ear out for those stories that lift you up, because chances are, if they do that for you, whether it is something touching or something funny or something silly or something really profound, there are lots of ways that that this is happening, and it needs to keep happening to keep us all buoyed during these really tough times. So thank you to everybody who shared with us, and keep track of those stories, because soon we'll have a way to share them more broadly and more frequently as a community. I do want to share that the advancement team did extraordinarily good work in scrambling quickly to put out the word about some urgent student needs. Many of you know that we have an angel fund at the college that is an emergency fund for our highest needs students when things around basic needs come up, which they do frequently. The angel fund is available to be tapped for those immediate needs. We knew as soon as this crisis started to hit that we would have more need than ever. And so the advancement team developed a message to our previous donors about how they could help that I think was extraordinarily successful. And while it's only been a short period of time, I want to let you know that as of this morning, the total raised is about $39,000. And that is no small number, considering that when we started, the Angel Fund had about $3,500 in it, and that fund was tapped within about 12 hours with the first round of students who were needing urgent intervention to be able to do what they needed to do. So really powerful testament to the generosity of this community, including many of you, and I'm truly so appreciative of that that support for our students. So let's move into some updates I want to share with the group about where we're at with just a few of our key institutional initiatives. It has been gratifying to see how the work of the institution is going forward, albeit with a huge dose of creativity in thinking through, for example, how do we do accepted students days virtually? Just to take one example of a critical event for the institution that Lisa and her team have been vigorously reimagining. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later in Q&A if you have specific questions, but I want to recognize that so many of you have been involved in imagining in the space of what feels like no time at all, whole new ways to do things that are absolutely critical parts of the college. So I'm overwhelmed by the creativity that I've seen, and I hope that you have been able to track some of that in the day-to-day. I also want to, okay, so two quick thoughts. Apologies if this is a little bit out of sequence, just wanting to keep track of folks' comments and questions. Pat Boera, it looks like, has asked us how to tap the Angel Fund in case anyone becomes aware of students in need. I would ask you to direct your Angel Fund situation that you become aware of directly to Susan Warwick. And Susan, you're welcome to correct me later in the Q&A if you'd prefer not to receive those directly. But my understanding is, since Susan is overseeing campus-based student needs as our Dean of Students, she would be the best person to make aware at this moment. And thank you to anybody who is forwarding those circumstances. And of course, if anyone, excuse me, if anyone would like to make a contribution to the extent that you're able, of course, that too is also always welcome. Right on the advancement website, off the Champlain main page, you will find a way to contribute to the Angel Fund. Okay. The other thing I want to mention is the Green Mountain Higher Ed Consortium, as some of you are well aware, has in Rebecca Schubert a wellness coordinator who is available to us here at Champlain. And Rebecca is available to you. I want to make sure that you all know that as you're thinking about your own well-being strategies during this time of remote work, during this time of remote instruction, and during this time of a lot of stress, I want you to feel free to reach out to Rebecca with chances for a conversation virtually about your strategy. She's a terrific resource, and so I want to make sure that that you're thinking about your well-being and that Rebecca is on your radar as a terrific source for that. Okay. And bear with me. Okay. I also want to just take a minute, speaking of virtual events, and at Tanya's request, I want to salute the career team. Speaking of having to scramble to figure out how best to support students, we put together a 2-day mock interview day with over 100 students and over 150 alumni and employer partners. So that too was a massive undertaking. Great job to the career team. Okay, turning to other key institutional updates before we get to our open Q&A. I want to let you know the status of COVID-19 cases to the best of our awareness. And so as of this morning, when I checked in with Annika as our medical lead, we were monitoring 10 students off campus, primarily, who had symptoms. So 9 of those 10 are off-campus students living in apartments here in Burlington area. 1 is an on-campus student who's been on strict isolation and who is improving. None of the medical situations has escalated to a degree that has increased our concern, and we have been in frequent touch with those 10 or so students virtually on a daily basis to make sure that they are well supported and that we know what's happening with their medical situation. I do want to recognize what an incredible job Annika and Susan, our Res Life and Health Center teams have done. It has been absolutely extraordinary. So we also have on campus a symptom-free group that is nevertheless under self-quarantine. Many of these students are returners from travel who, for whatever reason, were not able to get directly to their homes. And we did have a couple of cases where travel and hardship exceptions for staying in on-campus housing intersected. And so in those cases, any student, regardless of symptom-free or not, has been in self-quarantine. And so most of those will conclude the period of self-quarantine this week, but we have been abundantly cautious about any of our students staying on campus. Right now, just point of information, that number is right around 150 students in total, with most of those dispersed throughout 194 St. Paul, and the remainder on campus, again, dispersed across the res halls. And our team is keeping in touch with those students, and we do have support for those students in a dramatically reduced format in terms of folks that they can contact virtually, folks that are providing to-go food service. We have clarification from the governor's office that campuses in the state may continue to support international students or students with a hardship exception on these kind of bases. And of course, we're continuing to monitor that. But it was a great relief to learn that we could continue to approve significant hardship exceptions and continue to manage an on-campus housing population where necessary. The health department is now offering testing to folks with mild or moderate symptoms. That was a very new development. And because of that, our biggest challenge now will be to upgrade the basic transportation plan that we had made in the health center to account for the possibility of more cases on campus that might need to be transported to testing. Obviously, we will do that with an abundance of caution. We will do that with personal protective equipment and following all of the protocols and guidelines to stay safe. But of course, part of the deal here is for all of us to be prepared for increasing cases. And the team has been very smart and very thoughtful about what that process needs to look like. And so that's next on our docket for proactive planning. If we have a case on campus, the protocol is to notify, to work with the person on campus to notify all their contacts, to strictly isolate and have that person using a single bathroom of their own, and providing them with disinfecting materials and all of the protocols to make sure that they are appropriately cared for and also appropriately managing the risk of spread. And so I want to reassure you that even though campus is extraordinarily quiet and there are truly very few people anywhere on campus, I've been trying to walk around campus each day. Sometimes that's the time when I honestly feel the saddest and miss you all the most. But that is a chance for me also to have eyes on what's happening and as part of my own little wellness plan to also get up from the screen and make sure that I'm getting some fresh air and time to think. So I want you to know that that the folks on campus are okay, and while it is a very minimal crew, I feel really good about everything that's being done to ensure that the day-to-day of that minimal operation is working out well for those who have had to remain. Many of you are starting to have just enough bandwidth maybe to think about some of the major institutional work that was in progress, including our presidential search and the transition to a new president. And so I want to let you know that that is moving along, although clearly delayed and slower than expected given the crisis timing. We do expect, though, to be able to make a presidential transition announcement relatively soon. My estimate on that, and please understand it's an estimate, would be the middle of the month of April. So not too far from now, we hope to be making an announcement about Champlain's new president. And I'm encouraged that that has been able to proceed despite the absolutely world-rocking realities in higher ed right now. I want to talk a little bit about financial impact to the college. Speaking of world-rocking, many of you have been following the higher ed strain within the news more broadly about economic impact and the incredibly difficult reality that is hitting home for colleges who, at a minimum, are dealing with the need to do the right thing by their students. At least this is how I see it for us at Champlain. When students are not using campus housing and are not using campus food, it does not feel right to me to hold on to their money. And so we have worked to be as thoughtful as we can possibly be about understanding the conditions well enough before we share a process for refunding student costs for those particular parts of what they pay for here at Champlain. I do want to be candid with you. This is a huge financial hit. It is north of $4 million, and we hope just south of $5 million in order to make things right for room and board for the students who are not physically with us in this spring semester. So that is a massive hit. There's really no sugarcoating it. And we are going to have to figure out what that means for Champlain in terms of our bottom line going forward. That is work that Shelley and I and our board of trustees and our cabinet have all been deeply involved in. We're doing some modeling, some analysis. And it's important to me that we not move reactively, but that we really understand as many of the variables as we can before we start making decisions about the financials of the college. And so we are right now in data gathering and in modeling. We're looking at some different what-if scenarios. Of course, we don't know yet how this will affect our fall enrollment. And many of you know that enrollment is the name of the game here at Champlain for us as an institution with a very modest endowment. And if you haven't completely tuned out what's happening in the markets, you also know that schools with generous endowments are taking a beating, as is pretty much every investor. And so this is one of those times when having a modest endowment means we're not counting on a whole lot of money from the market. However, we sure are counting on funding from enrollment of new students and, importantly, returning students, many of whom are dealing with family situations now that are totally unexpected. And so we are trying to assess what that will look like, what that will mean for Champlain's bottom line. And there's a lot we don't know yet. But as I said, the first step will be to determine the best way to issue those refunds and credits for the $4 to $5 million that will come from having to refund those room and board costs to students. So that is quite significant. Obviously, at the same time, our ability to fundraise has shifted. And while we've had some terrific success in terms of the $39,000 that I mentioned earlier, folks are really, at this point, those major gift proposals that were in our pipeline are in some cases being reconsidered, in some cases being not right now, we're getting that answer. And there are a few cases where we believe we will continue to receive support for the institution, but we are being realistic about what fundraising looks like for the remainder of this fiscal year. The good news is we had already surpassed last year's fundraising total. And so that is a very good thing given where we are today and the likelihood of really any organization that isn't on the very front lines of COVID being able to significantly raise funds for initiatives or continuing operations. But we are continuing to think strategically about that. We're not giving up. And I'm really proud of Sarah and the team for the ways that they have been approaching this sensitively, but really thinking about the good of the institution, both now and over the longer term. And so all the elements of our financial picture, our release from endowment and investments, our cash flow and comings and goings of these refunds, and our ability to fundraise. These are all some of the elements that we are looking, there's some of the elements that we're looking at in order to better understand Champlain's financial position. And we're modeling, frankly, some pretty scary scenarios. We're modeling significant drops so that we can understand and be ready for what that would look like for our community and how we would continue to keep the institution sustainable during a hit that might be more significant even than that $4 to $5 million that I mentioned in terms of the room and board refunds. So that's the reality of where we are. And of course, if you have questions, I will be glad to talk about those with Shelley's help during the Q&A. I also want to acknowledge that many of us are thinking about what does the rest of the semester look like and what does commencement need to look like. I want to let you know that initially we said that new guidance about the rest of the semester would come out likely on April 6th. I expect to be able to share guidance sooner than that. So probably middle of this week would be our target, if I'm remembering our communication timeline correctly. There's been lots of threads, as you can imagine. But the idea would be that we would be able to, a few days before we had initially promised to share guidance about the rest of the semester. It has been painful to watch institution after institution suspend their semester and cancel their commencement. But obviously, given the federal and state guidelines, we don't have a lot of great choices there. But I would ask you to, until the announcement is prepared and we can answer folks' questions, please keep that off of social media, keep that to our community at this point. Very soon we'll be able to offer an update on the rest of the semester and on commencement. I will say commencement planning has shifted to what would it mean to do a really extraordinary job of commencement on a virtual basis. And so I have a lot of faith and confidence in our team. I think the institutions that have had the hardest time when they have announced that commencement will not take place as planned have been those that really didn't acknowledge the need for a ceremony in some virtual form, or were not able to be as clear about what the options would look like for marking this incredibly significant milestone for the seniors that were planning to be here with us and graduate. And so we're thinking about that very carefully and want to announce it with the greatest sensitivity possible, but more to come on that very soon. Okay. Those are my major updates for you as of now. Let's shift into the open Q&A time. And for open Q&A, cabinet members will join me on screen, and Susan Warwick is also going to join us today. Angela Batista is traveling to be with her parents, and so she, I believe, is listening in. Hello, Angela, if you are. But Susan is going to answer any student affairs related questions that you may have, and we can head into open Q&A now, please. And while we're getting situated, let me address the period of remote instruction. So the question of whether the rest of the semester will continue via remote instruction. I understand that students are asking many of you about this. I have also heard from students concerned about the ability to either travel back and forth or frankly also to sustain remote instruction. So there's a whole range of feelings about this, not surprisingly. We will not be waiting until April 6th to issue that decision. That decision will happen this week, so just to be absolutely clear about that. So more on that soon. And recognizing at the same time that folks who are working remotely for the college right now, who are either faculty doing remote instruction or staff who are doing work from home, you all are dealing with the reality that for all of you here in Vermont, at least, schools are closed. And so those of us with children are also figuring out what that looks like in home life, and that is no small task. So I'm keenly aware of all of these variables and want to get a thoughtful decision out to the community within the next couple of days. So more to come. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'm just sorting through questions here, so bear with me. Are we right? Okay, so great. I addressed that one. Good question from Tanya Stone. Thanks, Tanya, for this one. If we have any students we have not been able to reach via email and have not shown up to virtual classes, is the SCART form, the student care and response form, the first step? Yes, absolutely. We want you to continue using the SCART form just as you would for in-person classes. We do have a team ready to triage those, so please do report that and report it as promptly as you can. We want to have a very good sense of what's happening for our students, regardless of their virtual nature right now. Okay. Question regarding whether we've considered, with regard to the room and board refunds, a credit as opposed to a refund. We have taken a close look at the possibility of a credit. Some of you may have seen that some institutions, including I think UVM, went with a $1,000 credit or refund, depending on how the family or student chose to access. And we are looking at that. We are trying, frankly, to figure out what is best for the student and the family, and then secondarily, what is the most sustainable for us as an institution. So we're mapping that out now. We're looking at the details of it. And we'll be sharing with students and their families a process for that makes the most sense for those groups in that order. Okay. This is a great example of Champlain brilliance and creativity. Could we do commencement on Minecraft? A group of us could lay out the venue, and it is very accessible. And there's a link here, which I am not going to click at this moment. Catherine Byro would love to hear from you about how you all in the commencement planning team are thinking about ways to take input from the community about what commencement might look like in a completely previously unimagined form.
Yep, thanks, Lori. I appreciate it. And that suggestion came from Genevieve and made me smile. We actually, a small group of us who have been brainstorming what commencement from afar might look like, actually stumbled across a similar story where a group of high school students built their high school in Minecraft so they could go to the prom this spring. But what it raises is a really great question about how do we create a sense of place, and with all of the creativity and talent in our community, what is a virtual world or virtual experience that could be part of what an online or remote commencement experience could look like. As Lori mentioned, we are going to make sure that we create an opportunity for students, faculty, and staff to share ideas as we plan in the coming weeks, and especially for students to tell us what is most meaningful. So much of a commencement experience is about being together and sharing memories and creating memories, and what are ways that we could do that online or remotely or in part of a webcast. So be on the lookout for that opportunity to provide input, and please encourage your students to participate. Thanks, Lori.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so Lisa Bunders and Jennifer Archambault and Catherine Morgan and Shelley Navari and Jeff Brown and Susan Warwick are with us on screen. So please feel free to surface questions in the way that Kelsey recommended to us earlier, and we will tackle those for you bit by bit. let me take a moment. Rebecca, are you out there with us, Rebecca Schubert, to talk about the wellness initiatives that you've helped folks with so far?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, we sure can.
Okay. Yeah. So the consortium is really has shifted gears very quickly to move to this virtual-based reality that we're in. And in an effort to help folks connect, we have launched today a 4-week quest to connect around helping us connect to ourselves, others, and the community. And to support that, we have a number of events going on every single day, live fitness classes, yoga classes, Zumba tonight, stretch and massage going on this week. And all of that information is on the Champlain Wellbeing calendar. All of the Zoom links, all of those things are free. So I would encourage people to join the quest to connect and take advantage of what we've got going on to support your well-being this week.
Thanks so much. Let me talk a little bit. I don't think I mentioned this when we were moving through my high-level update on the financials. I want to talk a little bit about what we know so far regarding federal relief and the potential for state relief for higher education. Appropriately, the primary focus of the aid packages that we have been tracking are really primarily student directed and secondarily for institutions themselves. So the idea of being able to directly subsidize with primarily federal, but maybe also state or pass-through relief for students who have had unexpected expenses, particularly high needs students, and loosening up a little bit some of the considerable compliance regulations that our financial aid team deals with in terms of being able to make sure that we're supporting students under these new conditions. And while that is entirely appropriate and good, I think that based on what we're hearing so far, the direct relief to institutions of higher education is a little hard to get our arms around right now. The initial estimates we're seeing do not suggest that relief will be, for example, sufficient even to help with the total cost of room and board refunds. So we're looking at maybe 1/5, give or take, based on the earliest estimates of our total costs for the room and board credits and refunds. So just to give you a sense of how large of a safety net we're likely to see from the government, it's not anything that we will be able to count on exclusively, just to be frank about that. But we're continuing to track, we're continuing to see what's out there in terms of grants, and we will keep you posted on what the possibilities look like there and how Champlain might benefit. We're certainly open to benefiting, but haven't heard anything yet that would give us the level of a sigh of relief that I wish I could convey to you today. Okay. Question about congressional action, possible small college support. Yes. So let me share a little bit more of the details of what that's looked like so far. So I think we were about 3 days in, maybe, to the remote instruction announcement. Hadn't even gone to remote instruction yet. And I got a phone call from Congressman Peter Welch, and it was really nice to hear from our congressman about a check-in, honestly. His question was, how are you doing? What do I need to know that I might not already know about the reality for colleges in the state? And I shared as much as I possibly could about the various areas of urgency. And I really appreciated having that wonderful sense that everybody talks about in Vermont of being able to access our leadership in the government in ways that are kind of unusual. And that was encouraging. And the congressman assured me that he was working actively on these relief packages and would continue to do so. I'm also having, by the way, weekly calls with the fellow Vermont presidents in the Association of Vermont Independent Colleges. Normally that group is the private colleges in Vermont. We have most often in the past 3 weeks or so expanded to include the publics so that we are all really having one conversation and touching base with each other. And that has been useful to track the various issues, understand what our fellow colleges and universities are doing. So here's a question from Elaine Young. How are we beginning to think about the different award celebrations that the divisions do at the end of the year, right? So our honors nights, et cetera. Catherine Morgan, do you want to speak to what you know at this point about divisional celebrations?
Yeah, I can tell you that the deans and the expanded leadership team meet every morning well, every Monday through Friday at 9 o'clock. It's on our agenda, and I don't know a lot of the specifics, but I do know that the deans are working on plans to do virtual ceremonies and to try to make them small, personal, and say in the same way that we're trying to do something for commencement. So we don't have any definite right now, but I do believe that every dean is thinking about it. We'll take any good ideas, feed them into me, and I'll get them to the deans.
That's great. Thank you.
Lori, could I just add to the, one of our end of year celebrations that we do is our appreciation lunch that generally happens before, well, the last 2 years, I think it's been before commencement. So we are also looking at ways that we can continue to hold that event as a virtual event so that we can still celebrate our faculty and staff during this period of time as well. You may recall we do the Durick Lyman Page Awards. We do several other awards. We recognize our staff who are reaching 20-year plus milestones. So we are working with a team, Roland Palmer, Shayla Scribner, folks from the People Center are working actively together to figure out how we can bring that event to all of you remotely.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, that's been another area of some really good early creative work to figure out what it will mean to translate to virtual some of the things that fill our month of April here on campus and right into May. So another question regarding updates on what will happen with our student employees. And the question is specific to work study, but I want to expand to include student workers more generally. So a sub-team has been working hard on this issue, making sure that what we want to have happen, which frankly is to pay our students, whether they are working remotely, working dramatically reduced hours, or in some cases even not able to work at all. We nevertheless understand how crucial those student job hours and income are to students, and it's not as clean as if you're a higher needs student and you qualify for work study, you need your job more than a student who might work part-time and not be using a work study line. The quirks of how our jobs actually shake out on campus mean that in order to really meet the spirit of what we want to do around student work, we will need to think more comprehensively about work study and non-work study student employees. And so what we've been looking at, and what frankly has taken a little time, is the implications, any implications for financial aid. We have some good sound guidance about that, so we've worked through that piece. And we also, of course, wanted to understand what would this cost the institution, and how would we develop a process so that student supervisors can really be clear about how would this work before we say, yes, this is what we're going to do. We want to be able to be close enough to saying how we're going to do it to give you useful information. So that announcement is pretty imminent, I would say today or tomorrow likely, regarding student work. So more coming soon on that. But that is our intention, to be able to keep students with some campus employment money in their pocket, even if they are not employed on campus. Okay. Question for Catherine Morgan from Betsy. Okay, will the faculty, I think that says, how will the faculty be given an opportunity to help Champlain develop a strategy to respond to reduced enrollment? Good question. And I'm happy to comment as well, just having the benefit of past close work with faculty governance around strategies that affect the bottom line. So Catherine, do you want to speak to where
Yeah,
you're
thanks. Thanks, Betsy. I think to give you a really good detailed answer, Betsy, that answer will come from both me and Lisa Bunders. I know that the deans have been working with the enrollment management and marketing team on virtual events. And I've heard Lisa say at times she wonders why they weren't doing some of those things before. They are so clever, so creative, and such possibly high yield events. The deans have been part of it. The faculty will be an integral part of those virtual events, as they always are with the face-to-face events. But I'd like some time to talk to Lisa about that, and then get something really complete and comprehensive out to the faculty through a briefing sometime this week, if that's okay with you, Betsy and Lisa. Lori?
Thank you very much, Catherine. Lisa, do you want to add anything? I'd love to share with the broader community a little bit more about some of the terrific work your team's been doing.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, the team has pivoted very quickly and easily. We started individual daily visits that were virtual within 2 or 3 days of us leaving campus. And so we really haven't had a whole lot of lag time. The positivity and the coming together has been very exciting. I think the teams have thought sort of like it's a challenge, which is great. And we have developed a whole host of events. ASD is being completely revamped. The faculty and the deans will be involved in a series of webinars leading up to ASD, because of course we can't have a 6-hour webinar on ASD day. We have to do things a little bit differently. And then of course we have many social campaigns, as well as new ways to advertise. So I would say that all of the enrollment marketing team has pivoted and shifted priorities a little bit in the last 3 weeks. The one thing that we're also trying to do, which is very difficult, and if you have any ideas, any of you out there, email me, is measure impact. Right now we're trying to run models that would help us identify what the impact of this will be on yield. Very difficult at this point, but Karen and the research folks are helping me try to measure that as well.
Thanks, Lisa. Right, and there's a lot that we don't know yet. There's also a lot, frankly, that we can't control. But I will say that anything that is within our span of control, I feel great about. If a student was considering coming to Champlain and is still in a family position and an individual position to be able to make that choice about college in the way that they envisioned, I feel great about our chances thanks to the work of the team. So that's really important. And I will also say that the creativity and the use of technology that is characteristic of our teams really across the institution has served us incredibly well, as we have had to do this so quickly. I have been, to the extent I've been able, keeping an eye on some other institutions, and this was competitive before COVID-19, and it's strangely newly competitive, even though higher ed as a sector is also pulling together in some really fabulous ways. And so I don't want to lose track of the position that the college is in by virtue of the talented people and their dedication to getting this stuff right. So we're fortunate in that regard. We had a question about summer programs, on-campus summer courses, and I would expand that just to summer programs. Let me comment briefly on that. So I do think it is advisable for those who were planning summer courses to be thinking about what those courses would look like in an online format. While we have not made a decision as yet, I think that the reality of having the kinds of summer courses that we have and the kinds of summer programs that we typically host is now very much in question. And so while we haven't issued a specific decision about that, we will, I would say, within the next 2 weeks. But the ability for us to safely run significant summer programs is in question right now. Catherine Morgan, do you want to say more about that?
Just a couple of words. As with everybody else, the first week, that would be the last week, the academic leadership team focused on transactional process things, trying to help faculty as much as we could. The conversation in our last meeting has shifted to we want to be more forward thinking, and we're thinking about preemptive planning for summer. And the one definite thing I can tell you now is the word from the Dean of the Corps, where we do have a lot of summer classes, is that the faculty in the Corps are prepared and ready to teach their courses online. And I would argue that this might be an opportunity for Champlain. Summer classes and revenue have not always been a great source of revenue for the college. And this might be an opportunity to reach out to students who are at home or in other places to take some courses with us during the summer when they would not have come back and stayed on campus to take a face-to-face class. So we're working on it. We'll be hand in hand with Lori when she's ready to make an announcement about summer. If it is that we will be totally remote, the academic leadership team will be ready.
Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate that. So colleagues, I'm mindful of our time this morning. I want to say a huge thank you again to everybody on the leadership team and to all of you for the work that you have been doing. It shows up in a vast array of ways, but I promise you, we are going to come out of this stronger. I deeply believe that. We're going to be a smarter and stronger Champlain for having weathered this together. So take care of yourselves, please. Take good care of yourselves. Continue to stay focused on all the stuff that matters the most, and keep in touch with us and each other. We need each other in these times. Take care. Thanks a lot.